Today, I will discuss the adaptation. Last day, we have discussed the migration and escape in time by the organism. Means the topic was how the organism cope up with the stressful situations. Okay. Now, if the organism facing unable to cope up with the situation, so that organism migrate from that place. Other organisms need to adapt themselves for the surrounding environment with the surrounding climate change. So the adaptation is what? Adaptation is morphological and physiological and behavioral attribute of the organism that enables the organism to survive and reproduce in its habitat. Adaptation is what? It is morphological, physiological, behavioral attribute of an organism which enable the organism to survive and reproduce in its habitat. Adaptation is taking place in many ways, whether it is in plant or animal. There are many adaptations which have evolved over a long evolutionary period for a long time and are genetically fixed because they are now reproducing with the adapted organism. Some of the adaptation I am discussing. First, adaptation, the animal of the desert. Desert animal has been adapted in its environment by they actually conserve water. In the absence of external source of water, the kangaroo rat of North America desert is capable of meeting its water requirement through its fat oxidation. Internal fat oxidized to produce metabolic water. This is adaptation in kangaroo rat. And kangaroo rat has the ability to produce concentrated urine so that minimal volume of water is lost. Okay? They use minimum water to remove the excretory product. This is adaptation in kangaroo rat, in desert animals. Now, adaptation in desert plant. Desert plant, Aponcia cactus, they want to reduce the water loss by modifying their leaves in spines so that stomata are closed in that spine and lesser water loss is there. Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And there is a thick cuticle covering, thick waxy covering on the leaves of the desert plant to prevent the water loss. And the stomata in the desert plants are sunken type, means situated in deep pits to minimize the water loss. Now the question arises, if the stomata are in deep pits or the leaves are just modified into spine, and how the photosynthesis will take place. In these plants, photosynthesis will take place by the green phylloclad. Have you ever seen the cactus or a poinsettia, the leaf-like stem that is called phylloclad, responsible for the photosynthesis? Also, these plants have evolved a particular type of the chem cycle, cressolation acid metabolism. With the help of this chem cycle, they are able to prepare its food during night as well. During the day, they take the quanta of the light, they form intermediate, and during the night, they produce food. This is chem cycle, cressolation acid metabolism, in which stomata remain closed during the day. But the plant is unable to produce its food. Okay, this is adaptation in desert plant. Now, adaptation in animals in cold region. A number of organism animals are living in cold region, so they are also adapted. According to Allen's rule, Allen has given a particular rule for the animal of the colder region. According to Allen's rule, the mammal from the colder region have shorter ears and shorter limbs. Limbs means haath paw. They have shorter limbs and shorter ears. So they are able to minimize the heat loss. This is Allen's rule. And aquatic mammals in colder region, for example, seal, having a thick layer of the fat beneath the skin, which acts as insulator and help to prevent the heat loss. This is adaptation in colder region. Now, the adaptation in higher altitude, mountains. Whenever you go to Simla, Manali, Rohtang, you feel vomiting some uneasiness. This is called altitude sickness or mountain sickness. The sickness is temporary. Actually, we are adapting ourselves for a short period of time or there. The animals of the higher altitude have a higher production of RBC. Higher production of RBC, why? Because there is low oxygen. Higher RBC will carry more oxygen to all parts of the body. The production is increases in case of the animal of the colder region. What is altitude sickness? It is nothing but the feeling of nausea, vomiting, fatigue, and heart palpitation is the mountain sickness or altitude sickness. Okay. How the body compensate the lower availability of oxygen at mountain? You know well, they increase the red blood cell production, decreasing the binding capacity of hemoglobin, and by increasing breathing rate, they cope up with. They adapted for short time. There is one more type of adaptation. That is adaptation in behavior. We called it behavioral adaptation. As in case of the desert lizard, desert lizard. There is a particular phenomena desert lizard use, that is basking, sun basking. Okay? Desert lizard deals with the high temperature of their habitat by managing to keep their body temperature firmly constant. How? By behavioral adaptation. It keeps its body temperature constant. How? Desert lizard basks in the sun. You can say sun bath, taking the sun bath. The desert lizard basks in the sun and absorb heat when their body temperature drops below the comfort zone. They go to the sun, they go to the open and basks over there. Take it. And move into the shady places when the ambient temperature start increasing. The ambient temperature, the temperature of the surrounding. If it is increasing, then the desert lizards hide themselves under the shades or rocks. Okay? Some species of the deserts are capable of burrowing into the soil to hide and to escape themselves from the above ground heat. These are nothing but the behavioral adaptation. So these are some examples of the adaptation. Is there any question, student, or everything is clear? Got it?